All right. So, and how do couples approach this kind of stuff? So we talked about they should really have the discussion before they get married
Yes.
or before they commit to each other, right?
Yes.
They talk about what their goals are. What do they want to do with their money? What do they want to do with the children? If they want to have children, do they go to college? Do they not go to college?
Yeah. Start this off is with a book of agreements. This is the foundation for agreeing on anything. And just like in business, when you come to an agreement, there is a reason for writing out contracts. It's so that two people or two companies, two entities are completely clear on what they're agreeing to. Welcome to Boundaries and Beyond, the podcast that empowers you to set boundaries and nurture self-care, as well as have happier, healthier relationships. I'm Jennifer, your co-host.
And I'm Dr. Pokerel, your other co-host. And joining us is Trinity, the real junkyard dog.
Say hello.
And sometimes Toby doesn't want to be left out, so
Yeah.
he's spread out in the front of us.
Yes. I hear the term boundaries thrown around a lot these days, but what does that term actually mean? We're here to clear all that up.
In every episode, we'll break it all down for you, share practical tips for building better boundaries so you can have healthier, happier, more balanced lives. And yes, we are that good.
Oh my goodness.
Does it seem you and your partner's arguments all surround money? Well, what if I were to tell you the deeper issue isn't money? It's about trust, understanding, feeling appreciated, and sharing the same values. 44% of couples share the same issues around money as you do. 18% say money is their biggest relationship challenge. Well, we're here today to discuss the healthier way to have conversations around money.
Okay. We've had some technical difficulties this morning
Mm-hmm.
or evening.
Yeah.
That's how long it's taken us to get this squared away.
Yes.
And well, want to make a confession to the audience that we are late on this podcast because every time we started to discuss finances, we got triggered
Yeah.
and issues kept coming up
Yeah.
for both of us.
Yeah.
So we had to delay, we had to work on our own individual issues and then get back to it. So talking about financial literacy.
Yeah.
I think we need to cover some basic statistics because these are important. And this might be part of the reason that couples are having a hard time with finances. I mean, the statistics you already provided are concerning.
Mhm.
So here are some of them. Let's define financial literacy and financial competence.
Okay.
So financial literacy represents the level of aptitude and understanding personal finance.
Mhm.
Okay. Financial capabilities, the ability of consumers to use their acquired financial literacy to make better informed decisions, essentially about their finances, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to take a guess as to what the financial literacy in the US is among men? This is literacy. Take a wild guess.
I don't know. 75%?
You're being generous.
Okay.
55%.
Oh, wow.
And among women.
Okay. I don't want to guess that one.
Well, they're not much worse. It's 45%.
Okay.
Okay. And in the younger population, so looking at 18 to 34 crowd, what do you think the level of financial literacy is?
Oh, gosh. Wow. 25%, I would think.
Well, it's a little bit closer to 40%.
Okay.
And this is, by the way, this is from the Milken Institute, milkeninstitute.org. So if people want to look that up. So people 35 to 54. So that's a little bit younger crowd than we are.
Mhm.
Well, you want to take a guess?
I think it'd go up to more like 30, 40.
50,
Okay.
50%.
Okay.
And I think reflects that people are starting to be concerned about retirement
Mhm.
and
Or just
age
budgeting for the family.
in general, right? But I think as we're getting older, we want to, one of the things that happens when we hit retirement is that our costs go down. Kids are out of the house, they have a job, at least you hope they have a job, and they're taking care of themselves. So the expenses for couples tends to go down.
Mm.
And so it's about 50%. And then 55 and over, it's 54%. So it's that much better,
Oh, wow.
the financial literacy. Okay.
Hmm.
And also people that in the lower income, with lower income, tend to have a lower in financial literacy than those in the higher levels.
Mhm.
So does that mean that if we improve financial literacy, are people going to be able to make better decisions long term? My guess is that yes.
Mhm.
But so let's talk a little bit about some other aspects of financial literacy. So how many people do you think admit to having saved in the last year? This is Americans.
Oh, I know that's really low.
41%.
Oh, that's higher than I thought.
That's still real low.
Yeah.
I agree. It's probably, but it's low.
Yeah.
And how many people have an emergency fund? If there's a disaster and God forbid a pandemic,
Very few people.
49%.
Okay.
So still less than half. And how many have tried to figure out retirement needs?
Again, really low.
Yeah, this one's actually really disturbing. It's 41%.
Mm.
Um,
And what age group is this?
this is in
Probably.
general. Yeah, this is in general.
Mm.
And how many people have set aside money for children's college? Now, given there's been a change, some people are leaning towards not necessarily going to college and going to vocational school, but that's fine. Either way, putting aside some money for education beyond high school or even training,
Mm.
that number is 38%. So these are concerning statistics, and it might reflect some of the issues that couples are having because they sometimes they may not be familiar with the terms, or one spouse might be familiar with some terms and the other one isn't.
And just to keep the peace, they don't talk about it.
Right. Because the topics can get heated.
Yeah.
And that actually has happened to us.
Mhm.
And we have to, that's something that we're going to discuss in later episodes,
Mhm.
is talking about scripts, your financial script when you're coming into a relationship.
Mhm.
And then can that be changed? We have a preconceived notion of what is it like to take care of our finances, and the other person may have different notions.
Mhm.
So then those clash.
Yeah.
Or they blend nicely. It just depends on the individual. Let's look at other countries.
Yeah.
So what is the most financially literate country?
Sweden?
Close, yeah.
Oh.
It's Norway, but Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, actually, they'll tied for about 71% literacy.
Mhm.
And where do you think the United States rank?
Really low.
Well, not really low, but there's like of the developed countries we're kind of at the bottom. So 15 countries are above us, including Germany,
Mhm.
Netherlands, the Scandinavian countries,
Mm.
Finland, Australia, Singapore, United Kingdom.
Interesting.
There's higher financial literacy there. So that, the wealthiest country in the world is still not financially literate,
Yeah.
at least not how it should be. When we talk about the financial literacy, we want to cover a little bit because we're going to talk about finances.
Mhm.
And at least we want to give couples tools that they can use to deal with their issues. The first thing is you've got to have some source of income,
Yeah.
a job.
Mhm.
And what was it like for us? What were the messages we were getting from our parents? Because we are early Gen Xers.
Mhm.
So we were primarily raised by the greatest generation, right?
Yeah. Baby boomers.
Your mom's a young for when she had you.
Okay.
And my mom's a baby boomer, but my dad is more
Oh, okay. I see.
of the other
Yeah. And
generation.
my father was the other generation too. Yeah.
Yeah, and was the message that they got from their parents is the Great Depression, right?
Mhm.
So why do I mean the Great Depression was very traumatic
Yeah.
for everybody, and that's trauma that's carried from one generation to the next. So what was the message that we're getting is you have to go to college,
Yeah.
you have to save,
Mhm.
and you have to be frugal.
Mhm. And mine wasn't necessarily you have to go to college, but it was frugality from to everything. I remember my grandmother even, she thought that you don't throw away paper towels, you just keep washing them.
Imagine that,
Yeah.
but not toilet paper, right? You throw away
No,
the toilet paper.
we threw that
And you're
away.
like, okay, you just want to make sure we're on the now, but diapers.
Yeah.
Diapers were
Yeah.
washable diapers.
Cloth diapers. Yeah.
I remember growing up with cloth diapers.
I think I
That's
had
how old we are.
Pampers.
You had that? Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
grew up in Mexico,
Yeah. It was
so I
good.
don't think I remember the diapers were being
Yeah.
hand washed.
Well, and my aunt was very much a hippie and very natural. And so my cousins, even though they're younger than me, she used cloth diapers because she was kind of ahead of her time and, the whole recycling thing. Yeah.
Okay, and it was supposed to be, I guess, less expensive.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I remember we had the diaper genie for our kids,
Yeah.
and I thought when I first heard about it, I thought it cleaned the diapers and give them back to you, but that's
No,
not what it did.
no.
Once I found out that there's no genie,
Yeah. Well, how long did it take before you actually used it? I was using it.
I don't know. I came home one day after work and I tried to put it in there, and I was like, okay, where's it going to come out?
Oh,
Or do
goodness.
I pull out another one? Okay, so but I did change diapers and I did use it and I did throw them away.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so I wasn't totally involved. So one of the things that couples should take into account is that they should approach their relationship the same way you would approach a business or a company.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that we make each other transactional, but the financial health of the marriage is important.
Mhm.
And part of the reason for that is that finances reflect survival,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it triggers a lot of survival instincts in us.
Mhm.
If I grew up in a third world country
Mhm.
and I saw what it's like to live in abject poverty, and that was very dangerous.
Yeah. Mhm.
And watching kids affected by polio,
Mhm.
and this was after the polio vaccine was available.
Wow.
And I still saw the kids in the streets begging. And then when I came to the United States, I didn't see that. So I think a lot of Americans are sheltered from that. So they don't see the impact of abject poverty.
Mhm.
So when we approach the family as a financial unit,
Mhm.
and by the way, there's a book that we recommend, um, and this is called Coupleship Inc. Coupleship Inc.
Mhm.
And this is by Deborah Kaplan. We have no financial interest in it. We're not getting paid to promote this. But I have met Deborah, and she is a therapist, and she was a Wall Street investor. If I remember, she was a day trader, but she talks about her experience in some of her books. But this actually takes you step by step on how to approach your uh, finances and also behavioral issues that come.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about those in a minute.
Another good one I want to mention is Dave Ramsey. From many of our friends and family that have used him, gets down to just the very basics. If you're not,
So this would be like on a podcast, and then doesn't he have a class?
yeah, he has workshops, but he also has a book, and you can listen to his podcasts, and it kind of reinforces what different ways of saving, easy to follow principles. Which some of these financial literacy things we're going to talk about can even be a little bit more advanced, especially if you're more interested in retirement and savings and investing. But if you're needing to just get started, Dave Ramsey is a real good option.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we are going to talk a little bit about things to do, and this is because it affects couples, and they have to be on the same page. So it is important even before you guys commit, or before people commit, that you have a discussion about what are your values, what do you want in life, and even maybe start talking a little bit about retirement. What are you going to do with the money in retirement, right?
Yeah. I remember one of our first conversations was what our feelings were surrounding one of the parents staying home with the children. And so you need to at least be on the same page there before you jump into any kind of relationship because,
And not only that is because you may change your mind.
yeah.
The field of medicine currently is dominated by women, especially the non-surgical specialties. Many of them, they feel the need after they finish medical school, they want to stay home with their kids.
Hmm.
And we had a friend
Hmm.
that she had just finished a residence in pediatrics, and she tried to go back to work, but she had just had a baby, and she said, I'm going back and I'm staying with her.
Hmm.
And she was very adamant that she just couldn't stay away from her.
Hmm.
And that happens.
Hmm.
And you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's a lot of talk, especially in the manosphere and the bro, what do they call bro podcasts, podcast bros kind of thing, um, about women not working. And we think, we agree that this is really a very personal decision, and you shouldn't be shamed for either one of the options.
Yeah.
But one thing is true is that women do have a fertility clock.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, men don't. Or is not, at least is not as rigid. And you are going back to school now.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we've got our kids almost out of the house.
Yeah.
And you're going back to school. There's nothing wrong with that, with
Yeah.
postponing that.
Yeah.
And the thing I would say about you, that's from one of the discussions we were having and that we were being triggered about, is that you don't have to rush through your education. You don't have to graduate out of school within 2 years. You can take your time and study what you want because financially we're secure and you can do whatever you want. You can study whatever you want. You have that freedom now
Yeah.
that I probably couldn't have been able to say that when we got married.
Mhm.
Would you say it?
Yeah. And not only that, we've worked through just over the summer realizing that there's a whole different way to tackling children, staying at home with your children, and getting an education. That it doesn't have. We as women, sadly, our biological clock does work against us, and I'm, one of the things I'm studying right now is lifespan psychology and biology. And I had my second son at the age of 40. Reading the statistics of the various types of birth defects from Down syndrome to ADHD goes up astronomically when you hit 40. I mean, it starts to even climb at 35, but 40, it takes a huge leap. Kind of glad I didn't know all of that before I had Mario. I'm so glad I had him now, but if I had known that at the age of 40,
It would have given you pause.
oh yeah.
The sad thing is I did know.
Oh,
I
okay.
did know the although we know a lot more now
Mhm.
than we did back then, but that's why you were considered high risk. After 35, usually is considered high risk.
I thought they were just being a little overly dramatic, but
Yeah.
no.
They were very, very
Yeah.
careful.
But had I had more knowledge, and more, I guess, had we met earlier, and we had just a better life path at an earlier age. If it were up to me, I would have had my children in my early 20s, waited, stayed home with them, and then, started going back to school in my 30s. That would have been a much more productive path, I think, for myself. But I don't regret, waiting, um, raising my kids, and now I'm in my latter 50s and going back to school. There's some definitely some benefits to that as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
So had we, and that's an interesting thought. Had we had better financial literacy and financial competence,
Mhm.
we probably would have had our kids younger,
Yeah.
and you would have gone back to school younger than now, like
Yeah.
10, at least 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And by the way, just for all those feminists listening,
Mm.
I actually encouraged you to go back to school
Yeah.
the whole time. I never told you don't go to school,
Yeah.
don't. I never forced you to do any of that. In
Mm.
fact, I'd encourage you.
Yeah.
So back off. Okay, let's talk about some basic principles. And these are just very practical aspects of household finances. Most important one, have an income stream, so a job.
Yeah.
And you have to have 6 months, at least 6 months of living expenses saved up.
Yeah.
That's kind of your emergency fund,
Yeah.
right? So in the past, it was like you lost your job, got fired, there was a disaster, and you don't know how long you're going to be out of work.
Yeah.
We have a friend that after the 2008 um, recession, she was out of a job for about a year
Yeah. Yeah.
and struggled. And then,
And you and I even after Mario was born, you took some time off. And we had our challenges at that time in our marriage. So we were able to we had that luxury of taking time off and focusing on our family and our on ourselves because we had that saved up.
right, we did have that safety fund.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, the 50-20-30 rule.
Okay.
Now, this is not rigid. It's just a what we call a rule of thumb.
Hmm.
It just helps some guidance, but you live on 50% of your after-tax income.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
50%. So let's say you make $100,000 a year, you pay about 15,000 in taxes.
Hmm.
Then you got to live on half of that 75,000.
Okay. I've heard that from The Millionaire Next Door, which is
Right,
another financial book.
right, and that's a really good book, by the way.
Hmm.
So you live on 50% of your income.
Hmm.
You save. You put 20% of your income into. Again, this is after tax income.
Hmm.
20% of that goes into some kind of savings, investment, whatever.
Hmm.
Okay. And you can divide the savings and investment. That's something that people need to decide on their own. I've been using Merrill Lynch
Okay.
for 30 years, and every time they make a prediction, they're always right.
Hmm.
I don't even watch the news anymore to watch those news shows about business and all that. It's like, no, I call my financial advisor and
Or
I'm
at
saying,
least our advisor is
our
right.
advisor.
Yeah.
Well, he has an algorithm.
Oh, that is
Mm,
specific to Merrill Lynch?
well, yes, I think I'm sure other people use it, but they use that. And then he pulls it up and tells me, well, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're expecting. And of course, the further out you go, the less clarity. But I've always been impressed how they're always right.
And I wanna make, a comment there. So, there are different levels of financial advisors. So when I was young and I was kind of living like my income was not, I think it was about $40,000 a year. This was back in the 90s, by the way. So that was actually an okay income to live
That was
off.
pretty decent.
Yeah, now I think that's abject poverty these days, I guess. But, it that I actually had a financial advisor, that worked with me, I think it was at Charles Schwab, and he worked with people starting out in life, so you didn't have to have a great amount of income, and in fact, I think, his suggestion to me was to put, like, $50 a week into an IRA. And every once in a while, I'd meet with him to see how it was going, and he'd give me more advice, and he'd even project if I were to do that, how much money I would have by the time I was 65. And I think if I did just that, and this was back, I think I was like 20 or 21. I would have had $1 million by the time I retired. Now, keep in mind,
That's not adjusting for inflation, though.
I think he did. I think he did all of that. He
Okay.
adjusted for inflation. And so, and I think this is very important for women and men. It's women tend to invest less than men. And so it is important to plan for, what if I don't meet that mate, or what if the mate I meet is not as financially responsible as I am. So it is important for you to sit down as a single person before you meet that love of your life. So anyway, the point is, you can find someone to meet your financial needs. Now, if you're making $100,000 a year and you want to invest $20,000 a year, or invest $1 million, whatever that amount is, there's different levels. So don't just walk into, say, Merrill Lynch and they turn you away because you don't meet
Yeah, they'll have a minimum investment.
yeah. So look for someone that can work with you, meet you at your level.
Okay. And you covered one of the elements of the financial aspect is that you have to start saving early. Don't wait until you make enough money to start saving. You really need to start saving some right away. And that's where this 20% rule comes in. Even if you're making very little money, live on half your income,
Mhm.
and then 20% of that has to go into some kind of savings, even if it's $50 a week, like you said, because then the money will grow over time. And then the 30%, so 50, 20, 30, 30% is for you to live on.
Mhm.
So date nights, vacations, that kind of stuff. Some people flip the two. Some people say the 30 is what you save, 20 is what you spend for yourself. And then when do you start saving for retirement well, that goes into that 20%, but take advantage of employer. I'm surprised how many people don't do this.
Yeah.
I even we offer a 401k in our company, and I encourage employees, use it. Sign up.
Really?
We'll match it. That's going to cost me money, but they're not using it.
Yeah.
And I tell them, don't forget your 401k. And I say, oh, sure. I'll think about, and they never do.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. And that's the employer matching. So what happens is, depending on your plan,
Mhm.
you contribute a certain amount to your 401k, and then your employer matches it. Now, not every employer does that, but if that's available,
Mhm.
use it. And there are some people who criticize the 401k, et cetera. That's fine. But I think for most average people, the 401k is a good option
Mhm.
to contribute to their savings. You don't pay taxes on the 401k, until you take it out in retirement.
Now, not everybody offers 401k, so like an IRA is also a good option.
Right. So you can go to Merrill Lynch or whatever. The banks, your personal bank may also have IRAs that you can invest in. And then just a couple of other comments. We don't want to get too much into the weeds on this, but of course, your home, we see that younger people are not owning their own home, but rather than paying rent, these days rent is as much as a mortgage.
Yeah.
So might as well put that money into a home and let it accumulate value, because eventually that home can be an important asset.
Or a condominium. My first place that I owned was a condominium, and it was half the monthly cost of the apartments that I used to live in. So don't be afraid to look, even if you're young, just getting started out in your 20s. It's easy to find condominiums and townhomes that are in a more affordable range, and your mortgage is actually going to be lower than your rent. So rent is literally money down the toilet.
Yeah. The only way, if you're mobile, for example, you're a student, you're moving around, or your company is moving you around, then rent may make more sense. But if you can own, get a mortgage. And the last thing I want to talk about is insurance.
Mhm.
So the purpose of insurance is to protect your wealth. So car insurance, stability insurance, especially if you're the primary breadwinner, because if something happens to you, then you have something to fall back on. So do not cut back or cut corners on insurance.
Mhm.
Now, life insurance.
Mhm.
Life insurance is the quickest way to get financial independence.
Mhm.
So there's a term life insurance. If something happens to me, a significant amount of money goes to you and the kids, right? That's one. That's usually if you're younger, you want that. But there's also universal life insurance, which is a transgenerational wealth building asset. And the Rockefellers actually used this. So you put money into a life insurance, that money accumulates.
Mhm.
Now, if you die, you get the money that you put in and a death benefit.
Mhm.
But if you don't die
Mhm.
onto retirement, then you can actually use that money. You can take that money out in the form of a loan.
Mhm.
And when you die, that money's balanced out and you don't pay taxes on that loan.
Okay.
So that is something to look into.
Mhm.
And let's say you don't use it, that money goes to your descendants or your survivors.
So does that money accrue interest?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually it depends on how you invest it, but usually the S&P is about 10%
Mhm.
per year. So it can be, especially if you start young,
Mhm.
that can be a significant amount of money. And then there's the cash value, so the investments, and then there's a death benefit
Mhm.
that goes to your survivors.
Okay.
So let's say you have a cash value of $100,000 and a death benefit of $500,000,
Mhm.
and you're putting away, and there's limitations on how you can put money in it. So you really need a good advisor on that.
Mhm.
Um, that $100,000, you take out a loan on it, but you never have to pay it back, and you don't pay interest on it. Or sorry, you don't have to pay it back, and you don't pay taxes on that money.
Mhm.
You can pay it back if you want to, but you don't have to. But then when you die, that $500,000 is used to pay that balance, and the rest goes to your children. So that's something that people are not familiar with, and there are a number of books available that talk about it in very simple terms.
Mhm.
But the best thing is to find a financial advisor that can walk you through it's called the universal life insurance. There's
Mhm.
also whole life insurance, and then there's several subtypes: indexed and fixed. So you have to discuss with them to see what's best for you and your family. So we have one for you and one for me, and we're putting that money in. It has a cash value that we can borrow upon retirement.
Mhm.
And then when we pass, that money goes to the children and it settles the loan on that if you borrow money out of it.
Does that help with things like if you end up in a nursing home or something?
That's something different.
Mhm.
That's end of life insurance.
Okay.
Um, that is worth having because most of the expenses that occur after retirement are at the end of life.
Mhm.
If you have a family member with dementia or disabled with cancer, the expenses go through the roof. That insurance can help pay for whatever Medicare doesn't cover.
That can bankrupt some.
Yeah, it can just wipe out the savings, and then there's nothing for your children.
Yeah.
But that type of insurance can help offset those costs. Also, they'll pay for anything medical, and they're tax protected. You don't pay taxes on it. You don't pay capital gains as long as you're using it for medical. For example, if you don't want to be in a nursing home,
Yeah.
although it'll pay for a nursing home,
Mhm.
you don't want to be in a nursing home, you can pay a nurse to take care of you at home, take the burden off your family, and that you can take it out of that.
See.
And then you don't have to touch the rest of your savings for that. So that is an important product to consider.
Nice.
Okay.
And it's so important to have these things because I guarantee you, at even though you and I we exercise and we eat well, you lose energy as you get older. So imagine having to work into your late 60s, 70s, or 80s.
Yeah. And some people still do that, but
Yeah.
it's nothing wrong with that if you decide that you don't want to do that. We know that some people don't agree with that, but that's
But not it I mean, it's good cognitively to have something to keep you mentally stimulated. That, but what I'm saying is, you don't want to work. But
I wasn't trying to interrupt you, but there was a study. There have been some studies looking at nuns. Nuns serve people until they die. They don't retire. They don't do any of that.
Yeah.
So what they found is that these nuns were mentally healthy. They were pretty sharp. Cognitively, they didn't have any problems. But when they looked at their brains, they looked like an Alzheimer's brain. Some of them, not all of them. But the ones that had that, they still didn't have symptoms of Alzheimer's. It just reflects that if you keep your mind mentally sharp over time, you're going to have a less chance of developing these cognitive issues. Now, that's not foolproof, but
Yeah.
that was an interesting study with the.
But I guess what
nuns.
I'm trying to say is, you don't want to be 75 and worried about, making ends meet.
Right.
That's
You want to have the choice of whether to work or not, and if your work is what you want to do.
Yeah.
And some people just devote that time to volunteering
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What about student? What about debt? So we had an interesting discussion. There's some people that recommend that you don't pay off your debts quickly. You use that money and invest it, but you put your debt in a payment plan.
Okay.
And you're going to make more money if that money in savings accrues interest. And then if you start paying off loans, especially the low interest loans. So it took a long time for me to pay my student loans, but they go very low interest. And I ended up going ahead and paying it off because the interests were so low. Go ahead.
That's a personal choice too. For me, when I was in charge of the bills, holding on to those bills gave me a lot of anxiety. Whereas you like finagling and playing with the bills a lot. And
I don't know if I was like playing.
that was actually a major issue early in our relationship, in our marriage, because um, I was paying the bills, but you wanted me to pay them the way you saw financially fit. I wanted to pay them the easy and simple way. And so there was a lot of contention around the bills at that time.
Right. And your point is that for you it was more psychological.
Yeah.
And for me it was more looking at the finances down the road.
Yeah.
And I don't think either one's necessarily wrong. It just depends what your life's goal is. But
Yeah.
you decided to just let me handle the crazy stuff.
Yeah. That was when we finally decided that for my mental sanity, you needed to pay the bills.
Right.
If that's the way you wanted the bills paid, that you needed to handle the bills.
And that's where that's what ended up happening. And our portfolio is pretty complex right now. And I actually had to write it all out and I give it to our oldest son in case something happens to us, and I give it to you. But it has become pretty complex over time. And when we started looking at the end of life insurance, and we had to add that just for our peace of mind and the kids' peace of mind, so that they don't have to worry about our finances when we're getting to the end of life. But that added yet another layer of complexity to the whole thing. So, and anyway, that's money we can't touch until we're sick.
Yeah.
And that's a decision we made. We ended up making that decision, but it just meant our portfolio is pretty complex because of that. And that's fine. That's the couple needs to come together. And this brings us to our next topic: is how do couples manage this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
How do they build that trust with each other, feel that they are speaking the same language, and that each one of them feels appreciated for their ability or their gifts that they're able to contribute to the financial health of the family.
right. So we we've seen a number of different ways couples do it. In some cases, the couple, there's one that is the earner and the other one is the manager.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they're both earners and one's manager. The thing is, if you have too many managers,
Yeah.
then that gets difficult and contentious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better that they agree if one person's just going to manage the finances.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the
And
case.
I think the person who is managing the finances also needs to make the most complicated. They need they have the biggest boundary as far as making
The decisions.
determining how complicated their financial management is going to be. So, for instance, I like to keep it simple and you like to do it complicated. So then that means you need to manage
The finances,
the
right?
finances. Yes.
And then I just check with you. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm doing it blindly, but
Yeah.
or I'm leaving you
And I
in the
handle
dark.
my side of things, but like my spending and my own accounts and that.
Like I don't go around and buy your makeup.
No. No.
And you don't go around you
I-
don't go around trying to buy my
Guns.
100 No, the guns either.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to buy my guns.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that each couple has their own budget.
Yeah.
Each member of the couple has its own budget. All right, before we move on, what is Trinity wearing?
Oh, glad you asked. Well, I just got back from Scotland and I bought a kilt. And so that was a lot of fun learning about my family ancestry and buying a kilt. So Trinity had to wear her little kilt dress today. I don't know if these are her family colors, but seems to go with her
Fur.
fur, yes.
So technically that would be her family colors,
I
right?
guess so, yes.
But she doesn't have any Scottish blood in her. Didn't
No,
you do her DNA recently?
it would be Chihuahua, so that would be Mexican, and I'm
What
not
was the other one?
Fox Terrier and a couple of other things, but Fox Terrier and Chihuahua were the biggest ones.
Okay, so Fox Terriers
Mhm.
are two different breeds of terrier dog type, the smooth and the wire.
Mhm.
Both of these breeds originated in the 19th century from a handful of dogs who are descended from earlier varieties of British terriers. So she does have some
Some UK, I guess.
British
Brits wear
blood.
tartans. They wear kilts. I think I've seen the royal family in a kilt before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're not totally off base with the kilt.
So Brit and Mexican.
Imagine that.
I know.
Okay. All right. So then how do couples approach this kind of stuff? So we talked about they should really have the discussion before they get married
Yes.
or before they commit to each other, right?
Yes.
They talk about what their goals are. What do they want to do with their money? What do they want to do with the children? If they want to have children,
Mhm.
do they go to college? Do they not go to college? So
Yeah. And a good way to start this off is with a book of agreements. You've probably heard us speak about the book of agreements in other episodes. This is the foundation for agreeing on anything. And we got a really nice kind of leather bound, um, kind of diary with nice paper inside. And yours doesn't have to be that fancy. It can just be a regular notebook. But um, the idea, and just like in business, when you come to an agreement, there is a reason for writing out contracts. It's so that two people or two companies, two entities are completely clear on what they're agreeing to. I can't tell you how many times we would have we would have a disagreement, and say for instance one of the biggest ones was the landscaping.
the budget for the
The
landscaping.
budget for the landscaping in this new house that we built, and your idea of landscaping was
Very different.
dirt and grass. And mine was, well, we have to fit in with the HOA rules. And I don't think you understood that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not. I still don't. I
Yeah.
was like,
You're a rebel when it comes to that.
yeah.
Yeah. So we tried to come to an agreement about that, and we were at an impasse. And finally we had to meet with our therapist, and that's when she told us about the book of agreements, which we had been delaying for a long time. And finally that's where we started it out. And within a couple of months, we thought we had come to an agreement that I'll spend X amount of dollars a month on the landscape, and you were fine with it. And I would go spend the money, buy the landscape. You'd look at the bill and be upset. And I thought, well, it's in our book of agreements. We pull out the book of agreements, and one of us would be wrong, or we hadn't clarified it enough. We relied on, oh, I know what tighten up the belt means, or I know what it means, like you can just stay within budget means. Um, and so rather than using vague terms like that, we had to be very specific. $500 every 4 weeks, or every 5 weeks, or
You have to be clear.
the first of every month. Anything over $500, we were going to meet, and we're going to talk, even if it's $25. We're going to talk about it.
And when you say even if it's 25, is that if there were changes in our finances,
Yes.
we had to revisit that. But we had to write down, we'll agree to revisit that. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Especially early on. This was early on when we were in our recovery. We thought we could just read each other's minds and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what a lot of couples do.
Or they rely on remembering, because what I would remember from, if we didn't write it down, what I would remember, not, 24 hours later, would be something completely different from what you remembered 24 hours later. So that's why we had to put it in writing, and we signed off on it at that.
Yeah, we both signed it,
Mhm.
so somebody doesn't come in and write something and the other one doesn't know that it was written.
Yeah.
Right.
Or somebody doesn't write it down as you're sitting down looking each other in the eye. One person's writing it down and you're like, okay, we agreed to it. The other person doesn't read over it, because there were many times that you'd write it down because you had the better handwriting. You turn it over for me to read it, and I'm like, well, that's not what I said. Well, that's what I heard you say. So we hear things all the time that we want to hear. We interpret things differently, and so that's why it's so crucial to both read over that book of agreements after the other person's written it, both signing it off and dating it.
So marriage papers are the articles of incorporation.
Mm-hmm.
And the book of agreements are the bylaws.
Yeah.
And then you make decisions, and then you have your monthly corporate meetings or whatever,
Yeah.
quarterly.
Yeah.
You make decisions and
Mhm.
adjust it, and you write it down in the book of agreements, which is essentially your minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to be doing that for our corporations, and anybody that owns a small business or any kind of business understands how that works.
Yeah.
And we're doing the same thing in a marriage or something similar. Perhaps it doesn't need to be that formal as you would within those big books of incorporation, but it's something to that effect. You're taking care of it just the same. What other things is it that that couples can do? We talked about the basics. Agree with the basics. 6 months of
Mm-hmm.
expenses in the bank, then you live on 50% of the income, etc. What other issues?
One of the things, because I hate talking about finances, and I'm sure you did too, because it was even 28 years almost into our marriage,
We still have that
it's
issue.
still an issue. It's much better, but it's still something that we have issues around. We had to learn to make a date, like a weekly commitment to each other.
To sit down and talk about it. Even if it was just to say everything's good, nothing to talk about.
Yeah. And then we recently, because, both of us kind of have a way of sabotaging that date. So have a reward at the end of that date. Because we do that with other things that we do well together, is we'll reward ourselves, like go on a picnic. And especially, if you're on a tight budget, think about something that will benefit both of you.
Is a picnic a euphemism for something?
Okay, so something that you both want to do. So make sure it's something you both enjoy. It could be
So a picnic could be a euphemism. Not just not just go out for ice cream.
it needs to be something together that's romantic. Like you could go for a walk in the neighborhood or a hike if you're more active. You could go fishing if you're more outdoorsy, play board games. You come up with some.
And then go home to a picnic. Got it.
Okay.
All right, so we move on. And
one thing that we did have that was very helpful is I had my own um like my money, and you had your money that you spent on guns. I spent mine on shoes. But that way, if you do have things that you're kind of embarrassed about, like, like I don't want my husband knowing I had a lot of wrinkles, and you want to get your Botox, then have your own money, but agree on, this is my money. I have X amount of dollars every month going into this account, and you have, and it should be fair too, like if I'm getting money, then he should get money too that he can spend on things without question, that are morally within reason within your relationship. You don't want to be spending on things that, like, going out to strip clubs or.
so this is an area of contention often,
Yeah.
and maybe we do need to bring it up. It's more of the scripts
Mhm.
that we're going to be talking about later.
Mhm.
But what there tends to be, and you hear this from men. Men think of money differently. They
Mhm.
think that the money belongs to the family, and women often believe that, especially if they work, that it's their money.
Mhm.
And I think those need to be reconciled.
Yeah.
The couple needs to sit down and say, is this our money or is this your money? And is this my money?
Or should we compromise? Where you and I had to compromise on that. I felt belittled when I had to go to you and ask for money. Um, but yet you felt like money that was earned between the two of us went to the family income. So we compromised and satisfied both of our needs. So I had a small savings account for me, and you had the same for you, but then we had the family money, um, if that makes sense. Mhm.
So essentially, we have the money that goes for the a joint account.
Yeah.
You have your account,
Mhm.
and I don't have an account.
Well, you decided that on your own, but if the husband wanted to have his own savings
Separate money for his
separate, yeah,
expenses.
then
Right.
he could do the same thing if you did it the way that we did it. Mhm.
Okay. So what else?
Let's see. So also be gentle with each other, because this is such a triggering subject.
Well, it could be. It's not all
Yeah.
couples are going to have this issue, but
So you might need to prepare mentally before you go to your spouse and say, and we've talked about this dialogue in earlier episodes. Just write down the facts. Hey, honey, it's our date, financial date, in about an hour. Is that a good time for you? And
so asking for an appointment is
yeah.
actually a very healthy thing.
Mhm.
I have to have, because again, the reason this can be triggering is because it triggers a survival mechanism.
Mhm.
Okay. This is about survival. So asking the other person, if, especially if you have a history of difficult conversations around this topic, then it might be a good idea to ask, look, I got to talk about finances. When is a good time to do it?
Yeah.
Don't just come in and throw it at them when they're in the middle of
Yeah.
whatever, something to try to focus on.
Yeah. And hold each other gently accountable without blaming and accusing. So I'm usually the one that forgets that it's our financial date. So you remind me, honey, can we meet in about an hour about our finances? And I might be in the middle of taking an online test. And so rather than saying, no, it's not a good time, rather than, negating that, what I do is I come back with an alternate time. But I can meet, say, in 3 hours. The holding each other accountable there is great. And then at the end, when you've both finished your finances, give each other a pat on the back.
Go for a picnic.
Yeah, go for a picnic. Yes, go for a picnic. So the other thing is, well, first of all, in 12 steps, we learn we've got to admit we have a problem, first of all. Um, Praying about it can also help. Praying together about it might even be helpful. And then having an action plan and just really kind of diving deep into, okay, what and preparing ahead of time before you have that financial day. What are our biggest issues and what do we need to talk about? You need to have these hard conversations and be very thorough about everything that we just discussed, from paying bills to retirement to who gets what money, different areas of budgeting. How much are we going to spend on going out to eat or going to the movies versus vacation, the kids' clothes, the kids' school, those kind of things. Because and this just recently came up that the kids always come to me. We just kind of put all this together recently. The kids always come to me because I say yes, and they don't come to you. So we've flipped that around to now I say go talk to your dad, and they're like, and they don't ask you.
Well, and part of it, that's why you were always over budget, is
Yeah.
because the kids are coming to you and asking for stuff, and then you can't say no.
Yeah. So
And
now they're having to either learn to ask you, which you're going to put them on a tight budget, or they just do without, or
well, they have to,
they use their own allowance.
well, that's what their allowance is for.
Yeah.
Is usually when they want something else, they wanted something outside of their allowance, or so I tell them you can do this chore that's been meaning to be done, and then you can get money for that.
Yeah, you're really good at that too. You're better at that than I am. Well, let's work for it, and you put them to work, and also talk. You're better at talking to them about saving and stuff like that than I am. So I guess in that way, I'm a little more permissive, and so it's actually been a good thing for us to learn to flip that script on them.
Okay. Now we're coming to the end of the hour here. We covered quite a bit. Hopefully, it's been helpful. Uh, what what are can couples do when they're running into walls? They're hitting a wall. They can't resolve issues, and that's where a lot of these behavioral problems come in that we have to talk about. And by behavioral, I don't mean that somebody's crazy, but for example, you mentioned that you keep saying to the kids yes, and that was actually, we agreed on a budget, which we didn't talk about initially, but agreeing on a budget is very important. So you come with you're living on 50% of your income, so you have to have a very clear budget of where that money is going to go.
Mhm.
And you were getting over budget because you were giving the kids money and saying yes to whatever expenses they want. And they weren't coming from me.
Yeah.
They weren't
Now you
coming to
realize
me.
how much they come to me.
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah.
That they do. And then when they come to me, it's like, okay, so how are we going to work this out? And but there's a few resources. There's a 12-step program called Debtors Anonymous.
Mhm.
Now, it's not just about debt. Even though it's a Debtors Anonymous, they work on budgets, and people can actually get their finances in order that way
Mhm.
and try to find out where the bleeding their expenses is coming in. So there's there's several resources available for that. Gamblers Anonymous, believe it or not, also helps. That is more for people who overspend.
Mhm.
You don't have to be a gambler. You just have to be spending too much money.
Mm.
And there are 12-step programs for overspenders,
Mhm.
Overspenders Anonymous, etc. There's always RCA, Recovering Couples Anonymous.
Mhm.
And the nice thing about that is that you get another couple that's going to work with you, and they're not taking one side or another. They're working with you to form a plan
Yeah.
so that you guys can decide it. In fact, they actually will tell you, bring your finances. Let's see where you need to fix this, and
Mhm.
they'll formulate your budget for you
Mhm.
with you.
If that's something they're good at, like no one would come to me in RCA.
No, but they would come to both of us, right?
Yeah.
And you can talk about your struggles.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not always the woman that's having the issues with the budget, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's the man.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, I think we've seen 50-50 on that. It's not one or the
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
but it just depends on what you're doing.
Mhm.
And gambling, I'd have to look at the statistics, but a lot of the gambling is the men,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to like day trading.
Mhm.
We've seen quite a bit of that, or video gaming.
Mhm.
That's very addictive.
Mhm.
So those kind of things we are seeing with men. Women might be a little bit of shopping
Mhm.
issue, but it's not rigid. It's actually more
Yeah.
balanced
We
these
know
days.
somebody close to us who it's flipped.
Yeah,
He loves to shop and she loves to budget.
she loves the budget, right?
Mhm.
So it is. It's not as rigid as it used to be with the
Yeah.
changes in gender roles.
Mhm.
So there are books we talked about. Deborah has another book, and there are other books out there. KLONTZ.
Mhm.
They actually have done most of the research on this financials and finances in couples.
Mhm.
And there are some inventories that we'll talk about in one of the next episodes. But they have workbooks that you can use to work this out.
You've also mentioned Dave Ramsey. He's got podcast workbooks, uh, and a book on this. There's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's
And they have a workbook too.
I don't know. Our son is the one that really likes Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that's more about investing. And then The Millionaire Next Door. That's about, I think that has the 50-30-20 rule also.
So the main thing is, one thing is to learn about all this,
Yeah.
but the harder part is to sit down and work it together.
Yeah.
And a lot of couples come in. The two of the biggest issues is sex and money.
Yeah.
That couples.
Mhm.
So getting that squared away, the first thing you need to do is admit there's a problem, and you got to sit down and address it,
Mhm.
and then start working through the basics. So from a budget, decide where the finances are going, how much you're going to save, that whole list of stuff, and then start digging at the problems,
Yeah. Yeah.
and hammer down a solution, and then
Mhm.
get out your book of agreements. You agree to a solution, you stick to it.
And by the way, we've mentioned several, like the 50-30-20 rule and things like that, that work for us. It might not work for everybody.
Right.
You may have a different, uh, that may seem too extreme for you, and having life insurance may seem too extreme for you. But whatever it is, just know that you both have to agree to it.
Right. This is not going to work if you don't agree, and there might be some compromises.
Yeah.
So there was a couple that was they wanted to live on as little as possible, but very frugal, and donate the rest to charity.
Yeah.
The problem is when it came down to retirement,
Yeah.
Social Security, first of all, it might not be available. Um, and it wasn't enough to live on, even though they were being frugal.
Yeah.
And that was a big, big point of resentment for both of them. So there has to be some self-care
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're taking care of your retirement and
your family.
yes. Because what happens sometimes is that when you do the projections out, and you would need to do this with a financial advisor, they're very sophisticated software that can predict how much money you're going to have in retirement, how much money you're going to left over when you pass. For your children, you want to decide if when you die, that number is going to be zero, or you want some money to go to something, charity, your family, your children, whatever. And you have to plan around that. You cannot wait till you're 70 years old to make the to have those
And
projections.
every year you wait, it makes it so much harder. Like even waiting to the age of 30 makes it harder.
Yeah.
And some people put it off. They think, oh, I'll wait till I'm married, or I'll wait
Till
till.
I'm making this much.
Yes. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah. Even $50, $100 a month is enough to start.
Yeah.
Okay. And the earlier, the better. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got out of the dark triad.
Yeah.
That we spend a lot more time doing the dark triad than we not that we wanted to, because we really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's just that it was never ending.
Yeah.
And then we finished off with the gaslight review. So we're probably going to do a few of these and different topics. So I do want to talk next time about medical aspects of it.
Okay.
And psychiatric aspects of it. I'm not an expert in the area, but I am very familiar with it. But we'll do a few episodes on finances and the medical psychiatric aspects of it, and family of origin scripts. So how we grew up is affecting our financial scripts. And by script, I mean that we learn about, for example, I didn't have a script on how to save money. I had to learn that. And part of it is because our family came from Cuba, escaping communism. So we came with nothing. So just survival was our main thing. And now I'm looking, we come to this country so our children have a better life. And now our goal is to leave them with something so that they can have a better life, right? And so we'll wrap it up and talk about something else in how to tackle finances and a couple ship.
Yeah.
And couple shipping.
Thank you for joining us today at Boundaries and Beyond. We would love for you to like and share with all those boundaryless friends and family members out there, as well as subscribe to our podcast. Also, please join us on Instagram at Boundaries Beyond Podcast. See you then.
See you then.